They came for him at dawn, warriors with ropes and faces like stone. Pasanya fought, his fist bloodied, his body frail from hunger. He is no cause, he roared. But his strength failed, and he collapsed, gasping, his eyes begging forgiveness. Tunde hid in the shadows, his drum untouched, his betrayal a chain around his heart. Ifedayo broke through the crowd, her Oshun beads clattering, her voice a blade. Oshun wants love, not blood, she screamed, her eyes burning with defiance. Baba Ifa struck her with his staff, and warriors drove her out, their whips lashing her back until blood stripped her skin. She fell by the bitter river, her cries echoing. The Egungun appeared, its mask gleaming like bone. It pressed a cowrie shell into her hand, warm as a heartbeat. The gods grieve for their broken covenants, it said, then melted into the dark. I wanted to weep for her, but my rivers were dry. At sunrise, Ayetoro gathered at the shrine, the air thick with palm oil and fear. Olumide walked, his wrists bleeding from the ropes, his eyes on the sky, searching for a sign. Pasanya, held back by warriors, wept, his apologies lost in the wind. Adoni stood among the crowd, muttering, "This will save us." Her grief twisted into rage. Tunde cowered behind a baobab, his shame choking him, his hands trembling as he tried to lift his drums, then let it fall. Ifedayo, hidden in the baobab shadows, gripped the cowrie shell, praying to Oshun, her lips moving silently. Baba Ifa raised the dagger, his hand steady but his heart doubting, his blind eyes wet with tears he couldn't name. "Sango, take this offering," he chanted, the blade gleaming in the cruel sunlight. Olumide smiled, the memory of his flute song in his mind, its notes coiling like the river's flow. "Look up," he said, his voice soft, "a prayer for us all." A drop fell, then another. The crowd gasped. "Rain!" Aduni cried, her voice cracking with hope, her arms raised to the sky. Ayetoro cheered, their faces alight, believing salvation had come. But the rain was red. It burned like fire, blistering skin, blinding Aduni's eyes as she screamed, her hands clawing at her face. A woman clutched her belly, wailing as her unborn child died within her. The sweet river turned crimson, fish floating dead. The bitter river boiled, its steam choking the air. Chickens fled, their feathers scorched. The Sango statue split from neck to groin, its eyes leaking blood. The earth shook, and the god's voice thundered, naming betrayers. Tunde, who spoke, Adoni, who hated, you broke us. Pasanya broke free, stumbling to Olumide, his heart failing as he held the boy's body cold on the altar. "Forgive me," he gasped, his breath fading as fire swallowed the shrine. Tunde ran, but warriors caught him, their clubs breaking his legs, his screams lost in the chaos. Ifedayo screamed until her voice died, her throat raw, her spirit shattered, the cowrie shell slipping from her hand into the mud. The rain burned on, poisoning crops, choking the air with ash. Fire danced on my rooftop, unquenched by the torrents. My rivers rose, swallowing huts, shrines, lives. Survivors watched their homes burn, their screams for lost kin drowned in the gods' tears. Ayetoro burned, drowned, and fell. Days later, fishermen found Ifedayo on a mat of driftwood, floating down the Ogun River. Her voice was gone, burned out by screams, her amber eyes empty. She clutched Olumide's flute, its carving stained red, now broken like my heart. The cowrie shell was lost to the current. She whispered, though none could hear. He was their voice. We broke their hearts. She wandered my ruins, stepping over Tunde's drums, split in two, and the Iroko tree, now a dead stump, its roots blackened. Other villagers stoned her, calling her cursed, their rocks bruising her skin. Some knelt, seeing her eyes as divine, but offered no home. Her own kin turned her away, fearing her shadow, whispering she had brought my doom. Tunde, his legs crippled, followed her, dragging himself through dust, begging forgiveness. She could only stare, her silence louder than any words, her mute grief a mirror of my own. Ifedayo tried to build a shrine to Oshun in a forest clearing, pouring river water onto stone. Her hands trembling as she chanted Oriki, she could no longer sing. The water stayed still, the goddess silent, and Ifedayo wept, knowing the gods had turned away for good. She carved Olumide's name, Olumide, into baobabs, iroko, stumps, rocks by the road, her knife scraping as if to keep him alive. In a village by a quiet stream, she met Aduke, a blind girl with hands gentle as Abene's. Ifedayo taught her to carve flutes, guiding her fingers over bamboo, but she could not play them, her breath empty, her voice a ghost. Aduke's note halting but clear, carried Olumide's songs into the wind, and Ifedayo smiled, a flicker of light in the darkness. Once a mob cornered Ifedayo in the market, their fists raised, blaming her for Ayetoro's fall. "You defied the gods," they shouted, their eyes hard with fear. She stood still, Olumide's broken flute across her chest, her silence a shield. "Blame me," she said, her lips forming the words though no sound came. The mob parted, haunted by her calm, their anger dissolving into shame, their own grief reflected in her eyes. They let her go, but the stones they had thrown left marks she carried always. Years passed, and Ifedayo grew thin, her hair streaked grey, her clothes stained red by rain that never washed out, a mark of my sorrow. In a distant village far from my ruins, she sat with Femi, a boy who had lost his mother to fever. Olumide's flute lay across her lap, its notes long silent, its wood worn smooth by her touch. "The gods don't roar anymore," she whispered, her voice a ghost, barely stirring the air. "They weep, and we must bear their tears." The sky above was clear, but a single red drop fell unseen into the river, rippling outward like a forgotten prayer, carrying Olumide's name. My tale is done, children. Where do you sit now? Under Abuja's hill? In London's grey dusk? Or beyond where my eyes cannot reach? Tell me, for I carry Ayetoro's sorrow, and it weighs heavier than the years. Can a village ever rise from ashes when its heart is broken? What becomes of a girl whose voice is stolen, her love drowned in blood? How do we live when the gods' tears burn still, and no prayer can wash them away? When rain falls heavy, when wind mourns like a mother, listen close, their tears still fall, burning, unquenched. Guard your heart, ask your questions, but know they may break you. Never forget Olumide, the boy who dreamed the gods' grief, Ifedayo, who carried his silence, and Ayetoro, my home, drowned in its own fear, its ashes whispering forever.